This is the Backlog Battle Podcast, episode 202.
Looking back on 2017.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Backlog Battle Podcast. This is Alex.
And this is Daniel.
So, Daniel, what do you think we're going to be doing today, huh?
We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of shit.
What kind of shit, huh?
Just all the shit that's happened throughout the year, which is a lot, because 2017 has been a year of tons of releases and just tons of events.
Yes, exactly. Like this, I think this is a crazy year because not only did we get a lot of really cool video games, but we started actually starting to like ask about like some of the morality with regards to like some of the microtransactions and some of like the things that's been going on, you know, kind of like behind the scenes. And in a way, like it's weird how the hardcore gaming population, and by hardcore I mean the people who listen to this podcast, and of course, you know, the guys who really try to be in the thick of the news, right? Like how they've kind of affected the way video games are kind of perceived, and also, you know, like just some of the more important movers and shakers like in the industry, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, things in general with 2017 in general kind of felt like a dynamic shift in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. It's like
hopefully that's a good thing moving forward.
Yeah, I think there's a maturity of a lot of people, right? Like, and yes, we still get like, you know, the occasional troll sometimes, you know, and all that good stuff. But for the most part, there is a feeling that the industry is maturing and more important questions are being asked these days in terms of like, again, morality and you know, monetization. That is a big topic this year.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. But before we actually continue on that, I just want to kind of say, you know, happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and pretty damn soon, you know, Happy New Year. Hopefully 2018 rocks, you know? So
I mean, it's got a hard act to follow.
Yeah, it does. But hey, you know, the promise of a new Metroid Prime, the new Far Cry, which I'm pretty sure you're not excited for. I just got to throw that out there. And God of War, you know, the new God of War could be really freaking cool. I know you didn't have, you know, like, you had your own opinions of the new God of War, but this is not the venue for that conversation.
Looks like shit.
That's your opinion, obviously. But anyways, so I mean, maybe give me a little bit of an overview of how you feel about like 2017 before we start, because I know that once we start going down this crazy list of ours and stuff, that we're going to basically discover some of the things that we might have forgotten that have happened throughout the year. And mind you, this is not everything. This is just like, you know, like stock prices and whatnot for like smaller companies. You guys were probably not interested in that sort of thing. So we tried to...
Not only that, but like if we talked about every single thing that happened throughout this year, like we would be here for hours. This would be like a 6-7 hour podcast. It's literally been that eventful.
It easily. But yeah, I think we need to start with with you though, like what you thought of 2017 as to kind of like a way to close this out. Well, to close out the year, not like the episode.
Yeah, I was about to say, we just started, dude.
I know. Oh boy. Off to a great start already. Amazing.
Anyways, I feel that this year, especially in terms of games, has been spectacular. One of the best years for games, absolutely. I mean, not just because we've gotten a lot of great games, but we've got games that could be considered like game changers. And we've also seen a lot of revivals this year. I mean, this year has been so unique in that respect where, I mean, did anyone expect Resident Evil 7 to be as good as it was?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did anyone expect? I mean, you could debate its quality, but did anyone expect Bubsy to come back? Did anyone expect Crash Bandicoot to come back? Did anyone expect Sonic Mania to? Well, okay, people expected Sonic Mania to be good. It looked really good, but there's always that tinge of doubt with Sonic. But Sonic Mania managed to be great, and it was like, again, you could see that as a comeback as well. Like,
yeah.
And this year also had, like, aside from the games, in terms of what happened with the video game industry, it was. I felt like something was happening like every week.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Probably not quite to that extreme, but previous years, you would get like a month or two where not much happens.
Yeah.
But this year, it felt like it was just popping. Like, whether it was good or bad, it just felt like something was happening. Like, every time I'd wake up, it felt like when I went on to Twitter, I'd find out some shenanigan was going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, whether good or bad, it certainly made the year interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll try to take the podium from you a little bit and kind of like elaborate on what I said earlier. I think I'm with Daniel with this, where, regardless of what has happened throughout the year, there was something happening in the video game industry. When I was working as a journalist and stuff, like freelance, trying to find like things to write in a video game magazine or a website is kind of really challenging, especially in the previous years where there were like gaps, in releases, or even like there was just nothing really truly happening. And while that's kind of a blessing in disguise for a lot of people who are outside of the journalist, kind of field. Like, it was kind of a pain in the ass to me, like, back in the day. But this is one of those years where if you were in that field, there was no shortage of things to write about. And I think also it's because of the fact that, games as a service is now becoming more and more prevalent. And the conversations about video games, because of that said service, is kind of prolonging, right? Like Destiny 1, we were talking about it all the way up until the release of Destiny 2. And even now, even though the game, has been released for several months, we're now, looking forward to like the next expansion after Curse of Osiris and what's next for Destiny. And of course, there are the negatives and the positives of that. And that's kind of like what permeates and peppers like the rest of the year. Couple that with the fact that single player games are still alive and well. Take that, EA, by the way. 2 million copies of Persona 5, 2 million copies sold. Yeah, single player games are dead, whatever.
And Nier also sold 2 million.
Yeah, Nier sold 2 million. Many million hits. And I think more so, like, the Japanese are better now at estimating games. They're not like trying to sell like 7 to 9 million copies like Uncharted unrealistically. So things were great overall in 2017. So, but enough about us like kind of reminiscing about our 2017. It's time to learn what really happened in 2017, because maybe we're looking at 2017 with rose-tinted glasses, and that's really scary to think about. But I'm just gonna start this off. Like Daniel and I have a list of a bunch of stuff, and we're going to go through. The way that this is going to work is we're going to go through each quarter and just kind of like pick a bunch of things that we want to talk about and stuff, and and kind of move on from there. You think that's a pretty good way to go about it, Daniel?
Sounds good to me, man.
Okay, so since I already have the podium, I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about this really big one, because we forgot that the Nintendo Switch was not actually announced last E3, and I'm talking about 2016, but it was actually announced 3 months before its launch. Actually, 2 months before its launch, if you want to talk about it, which is crazy if you think about. Like,
yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so January 2017, just to make it clear.
Yeah, because it feels like this. We already knew about the Switch last year.
Mm-hmm.
and that, it came out this year. But no, it got announced this year and came out this year.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah. I mean, the most that we knew was that Nintendo was planning to release it first quarter of 2017, which is great, but they held on to the details so damn close to the actual release, time frame, the time window. And then all of a sudden, surprise, here are all the games, here are all the things that's coming out. And naturally, like, people had mixed feelings. I remember I actually had mixed feelings about the Nintendo Switch, not because I didn't think it was going to succeed, but I wanted Nintendo to really own this launch and basically make a statement saying, look, we are a games company. We're going to try to make as many games as possible, and we're going to frame this device as best as we possibly can and make it a huge contrast to our competition. Right, and I think they did. What did you think?
I would agree. I don't even own the damn thing, and I agree with that. Like, they knocked it out of the park. I think anyone who doesn't think the Nintendo Switch was a massive success is in denial. Like, this Switch killed it this year.
Yeah. Do you know that it's almost to the point where it's actually going to be outselling the Wii U in the next few weeks?
I'm not even a little surprised.
That's insane, though, if you think about it. It is at that point. Like, this is so insane that it blows my mind. So, but
it's nuts. It is nuts when you think about it, because the Wii U, I mean, for it to already pass in sales, like, throughout the Wii U's entire lifespan, that's nuts.
Yeah. Like, we're talking the entirety of the world, lifetime sales of the Wii U. Like, and versus the entire lifetime of sales, which is not even a whole year of the Nintendo Switch's launch. Oh my God. But yeah, I remember I was talking to somebody on our Discord, which, you can always find us on bit.ly/BBA Discord. BioPhoenix actually got a Nintendo Switch for his birthday, and he got Splatoon 2, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Super Mario Odyssey. That's like a 3-game attach rate for him. And
that's a trifecta right there.
That is a pretty damn good trifecta. And I was like, man, I don't think he even got like Zelda yet. I'm not sure if he's actually played the new Zelda yet, but hey, people are getting Nintendo Switches for the holidays, and hopefully if you're listening to this, you guys got one too, because that's so I'm gonna, I'm pretty sure we're gonna talk about this, a little bit later, but
sure.
The Nintendo Switch, I don't even consider it as my number 2 platform. And I'm not even considering it as my number 1 platform. If anything, I consider it as like the platform that I play as much as my PS4. Like, it's that pretty much even to me, which is insane to think about, And
I think that's a good thing, because I don't think the Nintendo Switch is trying to compete with the PS4. It's trying to do its own thing. It's got its own audience, and it's got its own market. And that's great. Mm-hmm. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. But I felt like I needed to kind of bring about, kind of make people realize that, yeah, by the way, the Switch was announced this year officially, and it was released this year in the same quarter. How about that?
Yep. And it kicked ass.
It did. So, all right. So what are you going to be picking apart here from this wonderful list of ours?
Well, I think that there's this date right here, January 24th.
Ooh.
That is a really interesting date. Now, I'm sure most people are going like, well, what's so special about that date? 3 kick-ass games came out that day. Mm-hmm. Resident Evil 7, Tales of Berseria, and Yakuza 0. Let's just say, now that I think about it, on that day, my wallet got a little lighter. Like,
yeah, that was a day when I was so happy that Yakuza 0 came out, and I had to basically pick either one or the other on that day, and that was really difficult for me to just basically like say, stop, you don't have money, you can't get all 3 of them. Oh my God. So, I mean, do you want to talk about any of these games, or like how do you want to go about this? Because this is an insane date. You're right, and mind you, this isn't like the only 3 games that came out on the 24th. If I remember correctly, there were like about 8 or 10 games that came out, but we're singling out these 3 games because you know these are the games that we're familiar with. You know.
Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is, these 3 games, these are the notable ones.
Right.
And they're notable for a reason. I mean, Resident Evil 7 is the comeback that Resident Evil needed.
Mm-hmm.
Same for Tales series. Tales of Berseria is the comeback that the Tales series needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yakuza 0 didn't really need a comeback, although in my eyes, it kind of did after Yakuza 5, a little bit. But, so in a way, you can kind of see this as like the comeback kid, you know, trifecta.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a weird sort of way.
Yeah.
And I want to say that, like, Resident Evil 7, like, it was so good to play this game. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was scary. It had good gameplay. It had great level design. The Baker estate harkened back to the Spencer Mansion, which is like, oh man, I wish the whole game was the Baker estate. Then Resident Evil 7 would be like that 5 out of 5. Like it would be that great if it was. If the whole game was that, but
you know,
still really fucking good.
You know what's funny is that, you know, like, I keep thinking about Resident Evil 7, and while I played it all in VR, I kind of want to play it, like, you know, without VR, because it almost feels like it might sound weird, but it almost feels like it's 2 different games in a way, because you're playing it in VR and because you're not playing it in VR. And, you know, like, I guess out of curiosity, out of academic curiosity, I'd want to replay it again. But I have all the DLC for Resident Evil 7. I have yet to beat, you know, all of it. All of the DLC, because some of it's just like kind of like mini games in VR and stuff, which, you know, is kind of fun from time to time, but that's not really like why I play Resident Evil 7, right? Or Resident Evil in general. It's not for the mini games, right? But
right,
you know, but I'm waiting for Not a Hero to come out, which is the expansion for Resident Evil 7, which I think we're all still supposed to like get for free, maybe. Who knows? That was supposed to be a spring release, by the way. But there's that. But Yakuza 0, we talked a lot about Yakuza 0, I feel, like, over the course of the past several weeks. Like, Yakuza 0 is a really fantastic game, which, you know, I like better than Kiwami, but it's also, like, twice the price of Kiwami. So,
yeah,
you know,
I mean...
yeah.
I think we've expressed our feelings towards Yakuza enough in this podcast. We love it. It's great. If you haven't played it, what's the matter with you? Come on, do it.
There's a lot of sales for it right now. So, you know, especially between, like, you know, Christmas and New Year's Eve, I'm pretty damn sure like it's been slashed half price or even lower than that, and that's a lot of content for half price of $60. So yeah, totally. And
I expressed a lot of my feelings towards Tales of Berseria already. That's a great game. If you've been kind of cold on the Tales series as of late, I'm gonna strongly recommend you come back with Tales of Berseria. I don't think you'll be disappointed, especially in the writing department. It is one of the best written games in the series, which is saying a lot because this is a series with some really great characters, really great stories. And Tales of Berseria is like one of the best written in the series.
Yeah, I actually, like, a few weeks ago, I actually saw Tales of Berseria drop to as low as like $15. That was really insane. You want to talk about sales, man? You guys are like, while you're listening to this, you guys should like look up like Best Buy or Amazon, because, you know, man, these games are probably on massive discounts, you know, before the end of the year. So yeah, you should check it out.
Better lap it up as soon as you can.
So, all right, well, I'm going to have to pick one thing here. This is kind of a bad thing, and I don't really know what this means as far as, like, the legality of this goes, so maybe this is a really bad thing to talk about. But ZeniMax was actually awarded $500 million for Oculus VR out for, like, intellectual property. You know, like it's kind of a weird situation where, you know, because I don't know if you guys know about this, but John Carmack, who used to be part of id, who is now owned by ZeniMax Media, allegedly what was happening was that he had actually taken some of the technology he was working on while employed at ZeniMax Media to Oculus. And then, of course, he became the CTO there and stuff. So, you know, and most employers, like, you know, kind of like their contracts with you normally has it there where it's like, if you're working on anything, you know, like even if it's personal or whatever like that, like the company that you're working for generally has first dibs on that technology, or it is owned by the company that you work for, which I know that sounds really sucky and stuff like that, but you know, it is what it is. It's just to protect the company that you came from. In this particular case, you know, it's probably more complicated than how I'm explaining it, but I think John Carmack just kind of got caught in that. And what we know about John Carmack, you know, from like the Masters of Doom book, it's kind of like, you know, like
it sounds like something he would do, honestly.
Yeah, but
because he's very much focused on completing his goal, I guess you can say. Like when he gets focused on doing something, like he's gonna fucking do it. Yeah. Basically. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest if, like, you know, he didn't care and was just like, screw it, I'm just gonna continue doing what I want and I'm gonna work on this. Yeah. Especially since you've read Masters of Dooms, you know, like I have. You know how Carmack is. So yeah, Carmack's really involved with like technology, and he gets really overly obsessed with it and stuff, like, which to me is, you know, like, I still think that it's really sad that he left id, because now id is actually improving without him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird that the guy who invented the id tech engine left, and then, you know, and I don't know if you know this, Daniel, but some of former Crytek guys actually joined id Tech and made the id Tech engine even better. It's a weird situation, right? You know, because the id Tech engine obviously powers the new Doom, and, you know, I don't know if, I think the new Wolfenstein is powered by it too, and of course the new Evil Within as well. And it's great in terms of technology now. Like, it's I don't know how you went from like, oh, we have Rage, you know, like the engine for Rage no one cared about. Yeah. And then Doom, you're like, whoa, what in the world? It's like, how do you get from that to that? And I guess the answer is not have John Carmack be at software anymore. Holy fuck. I mean, because when you read the book, that also makes sense, because Carmack is all about the technology, not really much of a game designer. Yeah. He's all about, you know, the newest hardware and making things like, you know, run fast and good, which is, you know, that's important too. You know, making things look great. But at the end of the day, the name of the game is the game. Yeah. Yeah. And when you don't have a good game, then you just have a lot of great hardware that's powering a potato. Yeah. Like, yeah. Yeah, or great software that's powering a potato. I mean, both can both both ways, pretty much. So, all right, Daniel, it's your turn. What are we going to talk about next? Well, I think that this game in particular that I noticed that came out in the first quarter. I don't think it's one that we've really talked about on the podcast. So let's jump into it. On March 3rd, Zelda Breath of the Wild came out. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I mean, and yeah, I don't think you and I have really spoken about this game much. I know. Well, I'm going to tell you that, you know, like, this is a game where I was one of those, like, morons who basically said, no, you're not going to delete my save at the end of the credit sequence. Yeah. Yeah. Wait. I said Zelda. You're talking about Nier. Oh my god. Okay. Well, either way, I didn't delete my save in Breath of the Wild, so there's that. Yeah, I'm sure you didn't. Yeah. Well, I mean, I technically did, but I don't know. Like, it's
The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was a game that, is very controversial for me.
Oh man,
yeah.
I could tell right by your cadence. I was like, ooh, he's gonna say, there's a spicy take in here.
Yeah, there's a spicy meatloaf here. I've mentioned this before, but in case for people who don't know, I wasn't too hot on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild after I beat it. I actually beat it earlier than most people. I beat it after 40 hours. And mind you, I'm not talking about like speed running it and beating it as soon as like you got out of the little hole or cave that you were in, right? I'm talking about like I did all 4 of the objectives, the bonus objective that nets me the bonus whatever, and then going to Calamity Ganon and beating the snot out of him, right? Like doing all that. I did all that, and yes, I actually unlocked and revealed all of the map. So I actually climbed all the towers, and I've explored as much of the world as I possibly could before I just said, I'm done with this. And the reason why I approached it that way is because I felt that while the rules of the world were an interesting thing to kind of talk about, it certainly was not was not good for me when I would have to worry about the ridiculous and fickle and, personally, in my opinion, broken weapon system in this game. Like, I'm
gonna agree.
Because my whole thing is this, right? It's great that it's got a lot of rule sets that you can play around with and kind of really, in a way, make, have a battle without actually using your sword and your shield. But I feel like there needs to be a question that needs to be asked where what does it mean when a game stops doing what it's known for? And I'm not talking about like Mario all of a sudden racing in a kart racing game, or being in a party game, or doing any sort of like weird offshoots like that, right? I'm talking about if the main series ventured so far away from what you are known or perceive it as the norm that it's almost like a completely different franchise altogether, right? Like for me personally, right, the Zelda series is all about the sword fighting, the shield, and the kind of careful use of like your tools. That was always the tertiary one in that list. It was never number 1. So having the use of tools be the primary way that the game wants you to kind of play around with the world, right? And you guys will probably disagree with this, but when your weapons, including the most powerful weapons in the game, which is the Master Sword and the Hylian Shield, they all can break, right? That is not
technically the Master Sword can't break. It goes on a power. It goes into a cooldown state. You can't use it.
A cooldown of like 5 or 10 minutes? Like that's still pretty significant.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and also the Hylian Shield doesn't actually recharge. It breaks, and you have to build another one in order to get the Hylian Shield. That's not.
I never bothered to get that. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so basically, the Hylian Shield can break, and the only way that you can remake one is if you have diamonds. Diamonds are very rare in real life, and it's pretty damn rare in The Legend of Zelda as well. I'm pretty sure somebody's figured out a place to farm diamonds, but realistically, you shouldn't have to do that. It is a Zelda game known for its sword and shield. In fact, a lot of people, when they were playing the game, they were banking on the fact that the sword and shield weren't going to break, and they were just kind of suffering through this, eventually hoping like, oh my god, once I finally get the Master Sword and the Hylian Shield, I don't have to do shit. Wrong. You are completely wrong, because now you have to deal with the bullshit that is exclusive to those 2 items.
One argument that people bring up to defend the weapon durability system in the game is the idea that it encourages the player to use different weapons instead of just sticking to one. But my retort to that is the simple solution to that would just simply make the other weapons interesting and viable to use, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Having to force the player to deal with this honestly pretty shitty durability system for something as benign as that, I think is silly. I mean, yeah, the only reason what actually ended up happening to me as I played through the game is that I would have all of these weapons and I actually wouldn't use any of them because I would want to save all of them for when I actually really needed them, which would be never.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that what's going to be interesting to think about too is, you know, once we're far removed from 2017, from the zeitgeist of 2017, if people will still consider the Breath of the Wild as one of the better Zelda games. I think the answer will still be yes, but I think they will say a different reason why, as opposed to like, hey, weapon durability, because that's not exactly like a Game of the Year feature, if you will. It's like that's just me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I liked Breath of the Wild, but after beating it, I kind of got it, but I didn't fully understand why it was so loved. And there was this one video by Joseph Anderson, and he is a little harsher towards the game than I would have been, but he still encapsulated a lot of my problems with the game. But the title of his video says it all. Not enough Zelda.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, that's the kind of interesting headline that I was kind of like getting at earlier when I was talking about like what makes a Zelda game, right? Like to me it's the sword fighting and of course Ganon and Zelda and stuff like that, and the exploration, of course, and then the tools last. Somehow the tools became the forefront. And you know, a lot of people, I think another thing that people talk about when they talk about like the Legend of Zelda to defend the weapon breakage is, oh well, you get a lot of weapons. And I'm like, yeah, but how many times are you actually switching weapons in battle? That's not really a fun thing to do, right? Like, imagine if you're playing a game. I mean, obviously, this isn't the same game, but imagine if you're playing Dark Souls and after every hit, you have to change your weapon or your shield. Like, or even like, you know, something as stylish as Devil May Cry. What if you had to do that for that one? Isn't that too disruptive? Like, that's the thing that you got to think about, like, when you're designing games like this. And I think what you said, where people, like, the reason is that they're trying to encourage people to try different weapons, I think that's just sheer laziness. And, you know, and I think that from a game design standpoint, right, there are people who get it quick, and there are people who don't get it at all. And I think that and I'm not saying that Nintendo... let me get this straight. I'm not saying that The Legend of Zelda is a bad game, but I feel like it's getting too much credit where there shouldn't be. Like, for example...
I feel like Breath of the Wild has established a really cool blueprint, but there still are some kinks.
Yes.
And I'm really looking forward to the next Zelda game, because I want to see how Nintendo addresses the problems. Because when you get past all the 9s and 10s that this game got, at the end of the day, it's a game with a lot of problems, but also houses a lot of potential. And I think if the next game is made for the Switch, you know, instead of being this weird half and half Nintendo Switch Wii U title, it can take advantage of the Switch's capabilities, which would be great because it is more powerful than the Wii U, and it can also address the problems, and more importantly, feel more like a Zelda game. I mean, if I don't really count those summon beasts as dungeons. And if you don't count them, there's only one actual dungeon in the game.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah, again, like, we could go on and on and on about Zelda, but the bottom line is, I think that historically people will still see it as a good game. But I think
it is a good game.
Yeah, but I think you're right in that, if anything, this is like more like a sign of things to come, like a blueprint for the future of Zelda that could even be more streamlined than this. Because to me, like, it kind of feels more like an experimentation, you know?
Instead of this weird weapon breaking nonsense, you brought up Devil May Cry before. Why not adopt a more Devil May Cry style weapon system? where you just have your set weapons. They're yours. They never break.
Yeah.
And you use the different weapons because, wow, they have interesting move sets and they're fun to use and they're useful in different situations.
Yeah.
Like I thought.
Like I said, I think that, we could go on and on and on all day about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Right.
And I think that we can actually even talk about this further in a future episode. But, I have my opinions. I have my reasons, I feel like, as to why they approached it this way as opposed to what you said. So again, we'll leave it for a future episode. This is kind of a teaser.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the last thing, unless you have something else, the last thing that I want to talk about in the first quarter is actually going to be lumping like a shit ton of games in this, because on February 28th, Horizon Zero Dawn came out, which is shortly before Breath of the Wild. And then shortly after Breath of the Wild, Nier Automata came out. And then, towards the end of the month, you get Mass Effect Andromeda. And then things get awesome again, because the guy who is the father of LucasArts adventure games released Thimbleweed Park, on March 30th. So,
wait a minute. You're forgetting one.
What do you mean I'm forgetting one?
You're forgetting a special series between you and I.
Oh! You mean Kingdom Hearts 1.5 plus 2.5 HD remix? Okay. I guess that came out too. I guess there was that in between Andromeda and Thimbleweed Park.
I mean, people are complaining about, like, where's Kingdom Hearts 3? Well, I mean, you already got Kingdom Hearts 4. I mean, 1.5 plus 2.5 equals 4. There you go.
Yeah, you already have 4 even before you have 3.0. Are you happy, assholes? You guys are the ones perpetuating this. And I'm half joking, but half bitter, okay? Like, please allow me to be bitter.
I think any self-respecting Kingdom Hearts fan that loves the series also hates it. So don't worry. The feelings are...
I hope so. But going through like this list, I mean, this is just within a span of a month, right? This is
absolutely,
even with Mass Effect Andromeda coming out, which, by the way, is not a bad game. It's a terrible Mass Effect game, but it's not a bad game in my opinion.
Okay,
I think these are still really solid titles. And I also glossed over like some other games, like the collection of Danganronpa 1 and 2 and the collection of the Nonary games, the first two, and of course Super Mario Run. But really, like, Horizon, fantastic open world game where obviously nobody thought it was going to be an awesome game because Guerrilla Games apparently only knows how to make Killzone games.
I would also say that some other great releases were Nioh and Hollow Knight.
Yes, thank you. Those were actually two really good games, dude. That's a really good point. Those are really awesome games. Nioh is it Nioh or Neo?
It is a Japanese word, so it's pronounced Nioh.
Nioh? Okay, Nioh.
Yes.
So
and they proved that From Software are not the only ones that can make a Dark Souls style game and make it work.
I mean, this is it's interesting because this is like Team Ninja post Itagaki-san, right? And then they're like, you know what? We know how to make difficult games. Let's do it.
Yeah, and it's one of the directors of that game was actually like Itagaki's protege.
Oh, I see. Well,
makes sense now, doesn't
it? It makes sense, but I also love the direction they went with Nioh. It's really, really good. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say it's an easier game, right? Like, I mean, I died in the first, like, one of the first bosses, like the one in like the boat. It's like, man, it's such a confined space, but it's not as difficult as Bloodborne, in my opinion, but it doesn't make it easy.
It wasn't quite as soul crushing. It's only a little soul crushing.
It's only a little.
Only some of your soul was crushed. The rest of it.
Yeah, the rest of it's still there. Hollow Knight was a great platformer. I'm looking forward to that. Metroidvania, yes. Really good game. And of course, like we're back to Horizon. Horizon's fantastic. I can't really say too much about it that hasn't already been said before. Now, Nier Automata, though, like we've talked about this several times before, but I don't think we actually really discussed this, too much. Because Anthony doesn't seem to be interested in it, back then, and I finished it. I think it was a fantastic game, and the format. I think I remember like somebody telling me that it was kind of like a visual novel-esque, format, like the way that you go through the game, and it was only until I actually played the game that I finally understood what he meant by that, and I actually appreciate it for what it is,
Yeah, it's not a visual novel in a literal sense, but more like in a structural sense.
Right, like story structure sense, yeah. Narrative sense. Yeah.
Yes.
So, you can gush all you want. This is like your opportunity, man.
So, yeah, Nier Automata, I think, is the best Yoko Taro game. I've said that before, and I stand by that. Now, you can argue that maybe some previous games did certain elements better, and that's true to a point, but I think that this game embodies the most raw vision of Yoko Taro to the fullest, and it also happens to be a good game in the process. Like, like as much as I enjoyed Drakengard 3, for example, looking back on it, that game plays like garbage.
Kavia made that game, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, Kavia is, yeah. Yeah, Kavia, if you guys don't remember, made that horrible 360 game Bullet Witch. Yeah,
Oh God. I beat that game. That game is terrible.
Why? Why did you subject yourself to that? That's terrible.
For a video.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You should make like a time machine, go back to your previous self and slap the shit out of them. Like, what the hell are you doing, man?
That game was so fucking bad.
Well, it's good. It's good that they're not around anymore then, right?
That's a little mean. I
know that is.
But, Yoko Taro has always gotten the short end of the stick. And he even still kind of did with Nier Automata to a little bit, because apparently I heard that the budget for that game wasn't really that great, and they had to basically make do with what they had. But he was finally able to get a team that could keep up with him, because that was the problem with the previous games. Like the developers couldn't keep up with Yoko Taro because he's a crazy man. Have you seen him?
Yeah. He wears that mask all the time,
which is awesome. And he finally got a team that could keep up with him. And as a result, we got a weird, interesting, and unique experience. And even if Nier Automata isn't necessarily like the best game of the year, technically speaking, I think it's one of the best for being such a standout experience and for being also a fun game in the process.
I would vote for Yoko Taro to be Man of the Year. I'm just saying.
Yeah, boy. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Nier Automata, in its 2 million copies, has made a dent in the universe of gaming. That is something that no other game can take away from him. So,
yeah.
All right, so next I want to talk about Mass Effect Andromeda, because I did actually play that game from beginning to end.
No.
I did. Look. A lot of people are going to say, man, it's a piece of crap. It's a piece of crap Mass Effect game. But remove the Mass Effect part and call it Andromeda, it's a damn good game. It actually is. I'm not even joking. You guys are thinking like, man, you are a shill for actually liking an EA game. No, there's actually some legit things that Andromeda does really well. The combat is actually pretty damn good. The exploration is way better than what it was before. And, the storyline, while not as intriguing or compelling as the Mass Effect trilogy that it borrows elements from, it is still a really solid experience. Like, I would even say that at $10, if you manage to get this for $10, that is a steal for even this game. $15, okay, if you're mildly curious, but if you get this for $10, you would not say that this was a bad game at all. especially with all the fixes that they've done with like the animation and
what a roaring recommendation.
Yeah,
$60 game is worth it for $10.
I mean, it's because it's the same reason why Diablo and The Witcher hide the number in their logos. And it's in the same way as, that's why when I'm framing it as just Andromeda as opposed to Mass Effect Andromeda, because framed as a Mass Effect game, it's the worst one in the series. It really would be, right? And I'm not discounting that fact. However, taken by its own self, right, removed from the Mass Effect thing, which is really kind of, is kind of a weird workaround, if you will, from what's going on. Like it is a legitimately solid game, like,
okay,
yeah.
All right,
yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'll ever play it, but if I see it for $10, I'll think of you and still not buy it.
Oh, damn. Like I said, like, I think that it is some legit stuff. Like, but yeah, like I think if you really are hell-bent on trying and on hoping that this game is going to be Mass Effect trilogy material, don't even get it, because it's not going to be. It's not going to even come close. But if you, for some reason, you are willing to retcon the title of the game and completely ignore the fact that another universe was happening at the time, Andromeda could be a good game for you. So, anyways, that's my take on it.
Okay.
The last thing I want to talk about in this list, and yes, I'm skipping over Kingdom Hearts because that's technically Kingdom Hearts 4, which means it's not actually out yet.
Fair enough.
Even though it's out in some weird Kingdom Heartsy kind of way. But hey, that's Tetsuya Nomura, right?
I think that suits the series.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah, it is Tetsuya Nomura logic, right? It falls in that.
Exactly.
Yeah, 358 divided by 2 days, for example.
Oh god.
I want to bring that up all the fucking time because whoever the fuck thought that was a good joke is terrible.
Not only that, but Kingdom Hearts 2.8 final chapter prologue.
What? Oh man. God. Okay, moving on. There's only so much time we can use for like Kingdom Hearts. Thimbleweed Park is a fantastic game. I have it on Nintendo Switch. It's a great old school adventure game, but that's where the buck stops. If you're not really looking for like an old school adventure game that kind of builds upon the ideas of like Maniac Mansion before it, like a long, long time ago, you might not like it. But for what it is, if you're looking for that kind of like point and click adventure game, Thimbleweed Park is pretty damn fantastic. And I think it's actually out on like all platforms, if I remember correctly. So really good stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyways, onward and upward to the second quarter of 2017. Man, there was a lot of stuff just the first quarter alone. And the second quarter is no slouch. So I'm going to give the podium to you, good sir, and to pick what you want to talk about from this long-ass list of releases. My God, it's like encompassing 3 pages. Holy shit.
Well, we've discussed releases, so why don't we talk about an event?
Okay.
All right. Now, this is something that shocked a lot of people, and that is the main writers of Valve leaving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That I think a lot of people are now like, that's it. Half-Life's dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or any game that Valve is doing, right? Like it's kind of like a really sad movement. I mean, it's not sad for Valve. I'm pretty damn sure that, as far as Valve goes, they're really happy that Steam is selling a lot of, like units and stuff. Like, and they're just kind of reaping in the royalties from that stuff. But it is truly sad for like a company that is so well known for, for really awesome, engaging games to just not be a game developer anymore. In fact, I actually want to read a tweet that somebody sent out a few weeks ago that I think spells pretty much what Valve is these days. It says maintenance of service games, VR experiments with no real products in sight, a card game that will try to ape Hearthstone's success, a bridge constructor game based on one of the most beloved IPs. This is the state of Valve, y'all.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, Valve, not a game company anymore. Nope.
That sucks.
Yeah. I mean, they have so many good IPs, right? Left 4 Dead, Portal, Half-Life, Team Fortress, Counter-Strike, Dota. That's it. That's where the buck stops, you know?
That's it, no more. They're basically just Steam now. They might as well not even call themselves Valve anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And it's weird because when I was a very pessimistic gamer, not to say that I'm less pessimistic these days, I'm trying not to be. Back in 2004, when Half-Life 2 came out, I remember writing Gabe like a really scathing email because I couldn't activate my copy of Half-Life 2 on Steam. And I mean, you know, it was really bad.
Okay, that's pretty bad though if you can't activate a game that they made on their platform.
Yeah. I mean, this was Steam 1.0. Maybe it's even like before 1.0, but it was so bad that I got really upset. I emailed Gabe, and of course I didn't get anything out of it, but you know, lo and behold, who would have thought that same like piece of shit platform is now like the one platform that everybody relies upon for their games, right? I mean,
yeah, it's either Steam or GOG.
Pretty much. And honestly, I kind of hope GOG takes over because I like Steam, but I think Steam has become complacent with, you know, customer service, and they're trying to automate everything when, you know, instead of hiring real people. And I think that's a sign of greed on their part, and I don't like that.
No, I agree. I mean, I like Steam, but at the same time, GOG feels like it's run by more passionate people that still care. And Steam Steam doesn't really even feel like it's run by people. It's just an app.
You know, you're right about that one. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's run by people anymore. It's kind of sad. I mean, from time to time, like, they'll probably hire, like, a blogger to blog about a new feature, and they'll probably fire him outright. Because, you know, they're kind of like that kind of cheapskates, but, you know, who knows? Who knows? Okay, so obviously E3 happened. We don't need to talk about that. But the one thing that I kind of didn't really talk about in the first quarter, because we could just totally lump with it in the second quarter, is that Square Enix actually released IO Interactive, meaning they sold it and to themselves, because actually IO Interactive became a independent developer, independent studio from Square Enix, but they actually kept the Hitman franchise, you know, as part of their company. Now, the interesting part about this is that we actually have more context as to why this happened from Square Enix's side. And what they basically said was that since they were actually doing more licensing, you know, with products like from doing Marvel, you know, movies and stuff and Marvel video games, they didn't have enough capital in their portfolio to be able to support a studio, like another studio, which is why they let go of IO Interactive. But at the same time, the CEO, or, you know, whoever this person was, I forgot who it was, who basically said that he is a huge fan of the Hitman franchise, so he had actually, you know, let IO Interactive reacquire it from Square Enix because he didn't want to see the franchise die. So I think that was actually really classy of Square Enix to do, to basically say, look, we love your games. We're sorry we can't work together because we're kind of strapped on cash, which, again, this is Square Enix saying they're strapped on cash. For those assholes out there who is saying, like, well, you know, they could make, like, a Final Fantasy VII remake and then, like, another Final Fantasy, right? I'm like, no, this is a company that is running out of money. Or rather, they don't have enough money, okay? They're being smart about their money. That's why IO is gone now. Think about it. There's a relationship here that's going on, you know? So, yeah, sometimes, like, I wonder what if, you know, certain people, like certain gamers, like, actually, you know, you think about this stuff or not.
Well, I think people in general are very reactionary.
That's true.
I mean, you know, to a certain extent, all of us are reactionary. I mean, we hear something, we react to it. But I think what an important distinction to make in your behavior is to internalize that and to actually really think about whether the reaction was warranted or if that reaction was appropriate, or if you really thought about why you reacted the way you did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of this information is public, right? Like you can listen in on, on investor relation calls, which you can dial in. Anybody can dial into them or even listen to them online. And you can kind of get a really clear idea of the direction where a company is headed. A lot of this is not positing. When I talk about stuff like, this is not like, oh, I'm making shit up from nowhere. No, there's, there are places to get this information, but yeah, it's, to me, like my takeaway from this though, is that it's great that Square Enix was classy enough to be like, hey, IO Interactive, you guys are known for Hitman. We love Hitman. We can't do anything with Hitman. You're the only guys who can do something good with Hitman. Here you go. Enjoy. Like how many people actually do that these days? I think EA still owns like all of those properties that they've completely bought from companies and stuff and just sitting on it,
like Dungeon Keeper.
Right.
And then they released that shitty mobile game.
Oh, yeah. Wow, we'll get to more EA later, pretty sure. Okay, so now we're actually at the games part. Is there anything that you want to talk about or group together? I mean, I'm looking at April 4th, and there's, I know you really want to talk about Parappa the Rapper Remastered or Drawn to Death.
Oh, man. I'm just... No, actually, the only thing about Parappa the Rapper that I have any fondness towards was an episode of Game Center CX.
Yes, love that show.
That was an awesome episode, but as far as the game itself, That
Mm-hmm.
Game Center CX, shame on you. Watch it. It's great.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen that episode, do it. It's really good. Really funny episode.
Yeah, it totally is.
But clearly, the standout in April 4th's release of games was Drawn to Death.
Yes, absolutely. The David Jaffe game of the millennium. Here we are. Which, by the way,
was that made by David Jaffe? Really?
Oh fuck yes, yeah. It was it was a multiplayer game where the idea was it's kind of like this weird punk multiplayer drawn in a notebook kind of like aesthetic. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, it's a cool concept, but it kind of looks like crap. I'm sorry. I'm like the biggest like David Jaffe fan, but when I saw this, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like I really even asked that question myself. Oh,
One thing I will always give David Jaffe props for is in an interview, he admitted that the combat in God of War was not as good as Devil May Cry. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for your honesty, sir.
There's an appeal to it for me. I think that it was, for what it was seeking out to do, it made do with the limitations that the hardware had. Because like to me, like in God of War, I didn't really encounter a lot of the problems of off-screen enemies trying to attack me, because guess what, I had a freaking whip that can actually extend beyond like my seeing, my vision, and it could hit those people, and I'd at least hear if I'm hitting something. Whereas with Dante, you could shoot, but they'll still kind of beat the shit out of you.
I never liked the Blades of Chaos or the Chains of Chaos, whatever they're fucking called. I never liked them. They just felt weak to use.
Yeah. I don't know.
But anyways, enough diddly-dally, shilly-shally. We're fucking Persona 5.
Yeah. The only game that really matters that released on that date. Unless you really like Parappa the Rapper Remastered or Drawn to Death, then great.
I mean, hopefully, more power to you, but Persona 5 is the real star here. Yes. Persona 5 was fucking awesome. It was like, it's one of those rare instances where you're really hyped for something and it meets your expectations.
It even exceeds it, man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but in the waifu department, definitely exceeded my expectations there.
Oh man, you have no idea. Like on my my girlfriend's like third playthrough and stuff, we actually waifued everybody, and come Valentine's Day, there was quite the surprise. Yeah, I was hoping there was a trophy for that, but there wasn't. I was pretty sad about that. But anyways, you guys
got an awesome cutscene.
Oh God, yeah. I was laughing so hard. I was like, oh, for the first time, the series actually acknowledged your gigolo-ness. This is great. But yeah,
that's great.
yeah. But like, to kind of add to what you said though, like, this did exceed my expectations, and a lot of us feel the need to try to find that quote unquote JRPG that could define the direction of future JRPGs to come, right? And I feel like we finally have that game. It's Persona 5. If you don't think so, then I hope you enjoy your PlayStation 1 style games, because I don't think we're ever going to regress from Persona 5 at this point. And and the thing that's really smart though about the Persona team is that they don't have a huge budget. They're really a small company, but they're, like we talked about before, like how you can maximize the amount of money that you have, even though you have so little. Persona 5 was smartly done in all aspects, but it still felt like a AAA game, or something worthy of a AAA game, even though it doesn't have the budget of one. You know what I mean?
I feel like Persona 5 set a new standard, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if developers in the future, outside of Atlas, are looking at Persona 5, are inspired by it, and even better think, you know what? We can do better.
Yes, and that's kind of like where I'm getting at, is like, I might jokingly put down games and stuff, but in reality, I really want every game to be awesome, right? I can armchair develop games and stuff, but that's not the developer, like, and Persona 5 does kind of elevate the genre from something that was considered to be niche, selling less than 500,000 units, to a legit, multi-million-dollar genre that, if treated well, it could net you a ton of money. 2 million units don't lie. That is a huge number for any JRPG. And
that's nothing to sneeze at.
And I'm not talking about a Final Fantasy, because as anyone knows, Final Fantasy is, moving further and further away from what is traditionally a JRPG, for good or bad, to be fair. But 5 is just kind of firmly standing its ground and saying, no, we're going to be a JRPG, damn it. We're going to innovate this damn genre. And that's
what's great.
Pretty awesome.
Persona 5 sticks to its guns, and it was still successful.
Yes, absolutely. So, great game. You guys don't need to take our word for it. I'm pretty sure like a lot of you guys have played it or are planning to play it.
Yeah, I'm sure most people watching it's like, yeah, we know, preaching to the choir.
Yeah. So okay, so I'm moving along. April 11th was actually also a really big day for games. Your favorite game, Yooka-Laylee, came out that day.
Oh, yeah. I actually backed that game.
Wow! You know what game I backed?
What?
A Hat in Time.
I should have backed that game instead.
At the time, I thought that it was never coming out. I thought A Hat in Time was never coming out, because at the time they said like, oh, we're like 3 or 4 people. And then finally it came out recently, and I'm like, oh my God, it actually came out.
It came out, and it is so much better than Yooka-Laylee. It's not even funny.
Man, that's really sad. That's really freaking sad.
Like, holy crap, playing A Hat in Time and playing Yooka-Laylee. I'm like, not to say Yooka-Laylee is like terrible. It's not an awful game.
Well, it was buggy when it came out, though, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and it had problems. So
it did.
I feel like it's it's kind of like if I brushed aside and said like Andromeda didn't have any problems. It had problems. It's just now at its current state with the patches, it's pretty damn playable. But during the time, the zeitgeist at the time when Yooka-Laylee came out was like, wow, they missed the boat on this one.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not terrible, but when I look back on like Banjo-Kazooie and even Banjo-Tooie, which a lot of people seem to not like, which I always like that game, but whatever. I look back on those games and I see a lot of creativity. I see a lot of great ideas. And I actually recently replayed the first Banjo-Kazooie because an HD version is available on Xbox 360. It's a really great version. And I had a blast playing that game again and beating it. So how is it that I was able to go back to that game and was still able to enjoy it, but this new game left me feeling cold?
I feel like the answer might be they were shackled to tradition. They wanted to recapture that feeling so bad that they kind of almost ignored the innovations that have happened over the past several years in that genre or around that genre. You know what I mean? I think it's kind of blindsidedness is what got them, because they were developing it probably the same way they were developing Banjo. Maybe, right? I mean, if you think about it, Yooka-Laylee from Kickstarter to end was actually shorter than A Hat in Time from Kickstarter to end. You know, so there's something to be said about that, I think. So
sure,
yeah,
yeah. Moving away from Yooka-Laylee.
Yeah. I was actually going to mention a few of the other games here because these are actually pretty notable, because some of the games that I have on this list are actually ones we've talked about on the show before. Like, for example, the Sexy Brutale. I actually played that game from beginning to end. That was actually really good. It was pretty decent. It's it's an interesting murder mystery kind of game where you can kind of like, roll back time and stuff and kind of figure out like, hey, this is a weird clockwork of events happening here. How can I prevent all these murders from happening? So that's an interesting game. Cosmic Star Heroine. Anthony mentioned this at the beginning of the year. It's kind of like this interesting retro style JRPG, which
that's a game I only recently found out about.
Really?
And what I saw of it really intrigued me, and I want to pick it up now. What really pushed me to want to give it a chance is someone told me that it has one of the best turn-based combat systems
really
that they've ever experienced.
Wow.
And I was taken aback by it. I was like, wow. Apparently it's very similar to Chrono Trigger. And Chrono Trigger, its turn-based combat, it's already pretty fucking good. Mm-hmm. So if it's similar to that but better, color me intrigued.
Absolutely. That's high praise. That is absolutely high praise. I wish, I wish I had a copy of that and I could talk about it, because that's actually something that my girlfriend and I were looking at over the past week or so, and because she was like, this is interesting, and I'm like, oh yeah, Anthony talked about this. It's a really good JRPG, and well, I mean, it's as good as Anthony says it, right? Which basically means he only played like an hour of it. Not sorry, Anthony. It's kind of the truth. Bayonetta for Windows. That's fantastic. And this is just one of the many games that we're going to see Sega release for Windows this year, right? But Bayonetta is a fantastic launch on Windows. Everybody ate it up. They start playing it. It's freaking fantastic. It's really freaking good.
It's a great port. I played it. It's a really good port.
That's pretty awesome. So I forget, like, was it you or was it my turn? I think it was my turn, and I took like
it's my turn.
Okay, cool. So what would be next?
Okay, well, I think that April 25th has some real good stuff to talk about. I could
think of one. I mean, which one should you talking about? I guess is the better question.
What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yeah, that was the only one I was thinking about.
Really? Well, I think the other ones are worth talking about too, but okay.
I think there are interesting things to talk about for Outlast 2 even, because like Outlast 2 when it came out, it was too hard. It was actually too hard. People couldn't beat it, and so its sales dropped dramatically. So they actually had to patch it to make it a little bit easier. And then I think they released a statement saying like they overestimated like the difficulty, of their compared to their audience, and it kind of killed the momentum of the game, which really sucks. So
my only experience with Outlast 2 is playing the first game and also watching this video by Shammy where he completely trashed Outlast 2.
Wow. Outlast 1 was something that was one of the first games I ever streamed on Twitch, and a lot of people normally think when they hear Outlast they think it's a terrifying game, but I was so drunk last night that I played it from beginning to end that I made it into a comedy show. It was hilarious. It's too freaking bad that I don't have like the video on demand for that, because I would have totally watched it again. It was pretty damn fantastic. But yeah.
But aside from Outlast, though, I really like Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Okay, so I guess I was not expecting that, but all right, cool.
Hey, man, I mean, I'm not. I know I'm all about like G's and stuff like that, but you know, I will never say no to a good game of Puyo Puyo or Tetris,
and one that has both, even apparently.
I used to not like Tetris, but I've grown to appreciate it and start to really like it. And Puyo Puyo itself is also really, really good.
On a side note, have you ever read like these treatises about like Tetris and how it's actually telling a really engaging story?
No.
It's a lot of really, up the ass bullshit.
Oh, okay. So it's really pretentious.
It's real. There's some of the stories on Tetris, and I'm not talking about fan fiction, right? I'm talking about like treating Tetris in an academically up the ass. Oh my god, how do you even get to point A to point B and arrive at this conclusion? Kind of treatises.
I know you're talking about like analytical literature, or
not even literature, because literature makes a lot of sense. We're talking about like how quote unquote Tetris is a statement about like the living conditions in Russia or something like that. I'm like, wait, what? Like, how do you get from that point? How?
No, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, like that insanity, that kind of insanity. Thank you. So how about Dragon Quest Heroes 2? I bought it at a sale. I have maybe played the first 30 minutes, and I keep turning it off.
Wow, it just did not stick for you?
It's not sticking for me for some reason. Like, a lot of people say, like, it's got a deeper, like, battle system and stuff, but I can't get to that point yet. And if I'm going to have to work hard to get to that point, then maybe there's something wrong with the game, or maybe I just don't like the melee, like, the Musou genre anymore. It's I think it's just oversaturated for me. Maybe
I think, you know what, I think I agree that the Musou genre has become pretty oversaturated. I used to be really into them, but nowadays whenever I try to pick one up, I just bounce off it.
Yeah, look, here's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Japanese gamers, people who love playing Japanese games keep saying that Call of Duty is oversaturated. There's always one coming out every single year, and they will never buy one ever again. The Western gamers say that the Warriors genre is oversaturated. There's one every other month, and they will never buy that ever again. We see a pattern here. There's always bad things like happening on both sides. So it's not the West versus Japan. I even think sometimes that, like this year alone, I want to say we had like 5 Musou games, right? Like that have come out, like that are not even in this list because I didn't put it. It's kind of crazy if you think about it.
There was the Berserk game.
There's the All-Stars one, right? As well?
Yeah, the All-Stars one, which is weird, which actually had William from Nio in it.
Well, yeah. It's Koei Tecmo. It makes sense.
It would be a Dynasty Warrior, like.
Mm-hmm. Right. But of course, like, because he is from Nio and stuff, like, it only takes him, like, 2 hits until he gets killed because, hey, hello. Like,
I don't think that's the case.
I'm just joking, obviously, but it's like, like if you want like that would be funny if he was like a special character where he's like the most difficult to control, and if you just get juggled twice, you're instantly dead. It's like you're playing Nio, but not. I mean, there's those plus, of course, Fire Emblem Warriors, which I was like, we can go on and on. There's a ton of Musou games. And it's, we're not saying that one is better than the other or somebody's wrong. It's just that, the reason why we do these like game of the year, or rather like not game of the year, but like year in review recaps and stuff, is to kind of realize, you guys are right. The Masao games, there's 1 million of them. Why the fuck are they still making them? It's kind of insane. It's like a factory of Masao games pretty much at this point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't really argue with that.
I mean, I got a point. When I have a point,
No, yeah, you're right. But you know what? Fuck those games. The best game that came out on April 25th is clearly What Remains of Edith Finch. Now, some will argue whether it's a game or not. Shut up. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. The point is that it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it's so good we're stumbling over ourselves.
Yes, we are. Totally are.
I would to anyone that's already played it, I would actually strongly recommend watching a video called The Villain of What Remains of Edith Finch. That's a really good video.
Ooh, okay.
Yes, excellent video.
Yeah, I think I'll check that out. Yeah.
But yeah, to those who have never played the game, don't know what it is. It's basically, and this has gotten kind of a negative connotation. I don't mean it negatively when I say it, but it's one of those games that's considered a walking simulator where there's not really any actual gameplay to be had. There's no fail states or anything like that. It's all about the story and the environmental storytelling, the ways that you can infer from the environment what certain characters were like. You're basically walking around this house and nobody's in the house anymore. Everyone is gone. But the house is filled with all these rooms, and all these rooms are belonged to a person. And each room was so intricately and designed with so much detail that you can infer so much about what that person was like by looking at their room. Like there was like this one kid that was like really into being a soldier, and he had all this army stuff like plastered on his wall. And there's another kid that was like really into like space stuff, so he has like a telescope, and there's so many fine little details to give you an idea of like what this person was like, even though you don't really like get to know them personally. Mm-hmm. Like, although the game does allow you to view what the last few moments were for them. The game allows you to see how they died.
Yeah.
And yet, despite the fact that you only get to see their rooms and you only get the few moments before they died, you learn so much about these characters. Mm-hmm. It's not even funny. It's so impressive.
It's great because it can tell a story just by showing you like what has been their life, and I think that there's something to be said about that. But also, it's not a traditional walking sim, because in a walking sim, it's just you're a person and you're just kind of walking around in rooms and reading stuff and what have you. But in this game, you actually inhabit different kinds of, like, I mean, not just, I don't want to say creatures and stuff, but like you get into these unique activities. Even I think that's the best way to describe it, where you're either like you're a boy on a swing, or you kind of change into like a sea monster, or you're like a shark that's falling down into the ocean and you can control it. Like non-traditional, even for its genre, right? That you're able to actually do all of these, but it makes a lot of sense given the context of the game. And I think also in certain parts, they're so powerful when it comes to telling a narrative that you can't help but feel sad. The cannery one is the one that makes, like the biggest impact on me. Like that storyline in the cannery, and I was like,
oh god,
man, yeah. I felt really sad when that happened. I was like, I know
exactly how you feel.
Yeah. But that's the kind of impact that What Remains of Edith Finch had on me. And even then, it's like, there's not a lot of games that can do that to you, especially with the way that they told the story for that.
You see, this game and Nier are these are the types of games that prove the merit of video games as a storytelling medium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I don't think What Remains of Edith Finch could work if it wasn't what it was. Like if it was a book or a movie, like I'm sure it'd still be good, but like it is in its most optimal form as a video game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the kind of conversation that comes up where is it still, like the stupid argument of like, well, is it a video game? Well, I think really what's happening here is that the definition of video game is becoming either so broad or that it's become insufficient to describe interactive experiences that we can have in this media now. We're getting to that point where we're literally pushing against the definition of what a video game is and maybe turning it into something else. I don't want it to change, honestly, because video games are now an iconic word when thinking about all this stuff, but something to consider. Maybe it's too limiting these days. So
I don't think it really matters.
Yeah.
Personally, at the end of the day, these are, whether you want to call them video games or interactive experiences, the point is they're great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're talking about them.
Exactly. So, all right. So it's my turn now, right? Okay. So this is kind of difficult because I'm just going to flashbang a whole bunch of games that I think are kind of noteworthy in this quarter because there's so many of them, right?
Okay.
There's so many. Little Nightmares came out on April 28th. That's actually from the guys who ported Little Big Planet and actually started developing it later, which is Tarsius Studios, which is why the Little Nightmares people kind of look like evil demonic sack boys, oddly enough.
Interesting.
Yeah. May 5th was Prey, which, a lot of people thought that there wasn't a game that was going to outprey Prey. Prey did. Arcane Studios is Prey. I actually really like this game. I still have yet to beat it, but hey, it's Arcane Studios' take on Deus Ex / Bioshock, and I think they did a pretty good job with that one. May 9th, Loco Roco Remastered. Just kidding. It's Polybius. It's the, it's the game that a lot of people thought was a, urban legend. It is. Polybius is Jeff Minter's little project for VR as well. Jeff Minter is the guy who made Tempest, if you remember that game from many, many, many years ago.
There is a video by a channel called Retro Ahoy that did a very extensive deep dive into the history of Polybius and trying to figure out the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he basically figured it out. It's not a definitive answer at the end of it, but it is like, but it does feel pretty convincing.
Yeah, he comes close to it, is what you're saying.
Yes, very highly recommended. It's a pretty long video. I think it's like almost an hour.
Wow.
Which makes sense though, because there is a lot of history when it comes to Polybius, and he basically runs the gambit of like going through as much evidence as he possibly could and going out of his way to contact people that were closely related to the Polybius legend. So it's really interesting stuff, really worth checking.
Absolutely. That's a pretty good video to watch. May 16th, there's really 3 games that come to mind. Akiba's Beat, I know some of our fans and listeners are actually like really into that series, so that came out May 16th. Farpoint, which is a VR game, and I was
gonna say, isn't that VR?
Yeah, I actually have it, and I'll tell you what, like it is a really good like shooter for PSVR. Like I have the gun, I'm actually able to aim wherever I want, and even strafe and actually step left and right in real life. It's I can even duck against like projectiles and all that. It's really engaging. Like that's like
I've seen footage of it. Like it looks awesome. Like it's one of those games that almost makes me want to get VR. Not quite, but it does look like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
At the very least, I do want to go to a friend's house and play his if he has one.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Injustice 2, which came out, of course, they're still releasing DLC for it because, hey, NetherRealm, it's just the way that, that thing works. And I'm going to cycle through this. May 19th, Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. And then all the way down to May 25th. Remember we were talking about like Sega porting games onto Windows platforms? May 25th is when Vanquish came out on Windows. And yeah, that's a fantastic game. Shinji Mikami made that, of course. That's a really solid shooter. It's fantastic. A lot of people say it, Vanquish kind of inspired a little bit of gameplay from Warframe, and having played Warframe, I can kind of see why people think that way. May 26th, Friday the 13th, the game came out, as well as Guilty Gear Xrd Revision 2 and Ultra Street Fighter 2, which apparently we're not done with Street Fighter 2. That came out on Switch.
For some reason. June 2nd, Tekken 7 came out, which is fantastic. Before that, May 30th, Ys Origin came out for the Vita, and I think Ys Origin came out for the PS4 like a few months prior to that. I think it was February 21st, it said. Actually, a little bit of advice. If you do pick up Ys Origin on the PlayStation Store, it actually counts for both versions.
Ooh, okay. I did not know that. That. Good to know. Okay, June 6th, we got Wipeout Omega Collection, if you guys are a fan of Wipeout, that series. ARMS, which is a brand new IP by Nintendo, June 16th. Really good game. They're still updating it for free, by the way. We've had, I think, what is it now, 3 or 4 different fighters and 4 levels and a whole bunch of different arms, which this game is actually going to be played at Evo Japan, which is that tournament, the fighting game tournament that's happening in Japan in January. Super excited about that.
I think that's a game that people were blindsided by, because I don't think a lot of people were really expecting it to be any good, but then it came out and then it actually turned out to be a really fun game.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the Japanese actually like it. It sold more in Japan than it did in the West, from what I remember from the launch, which is really surprising.
I don't know. That kind of seemed like a game that'd do well in the West because of the FGC, but whatever. If the Japanese really loved it, that's cool.
FGC is a little bit fickle sometimes, so...
True.
Yeah. June 20th, Dead by Daylight came out for PS4 and Xbox One. That's a pretty good game. But the big one for me on this date was Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood, which is a fantastic expansion to Final Fantasy XIV. Oh my god, all the marbles, all the freaking, callbacks to old Final Fantasies. This game has got it. It's pretty insane. June.
I still need to play it.
Hey, yeah, you know what? They've this, over the holiday season, they actually had a free 96-hour, I don't know what they call it, but it's a way for people who lapsed their subscription to come back to the game to play it for 96 hours. And they do it from time to time so that way you can kind of catch up with the game and stuff, which is kind of nice of them. That happened. I don't want to talk much about Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood because we're kind of running out of time here. June 23rd, Secret World Legends, which is another MMO, really good one. But they removed the monthly subscription, thankfully. June 27th, Valkyria Revolution. That happened. I can't really.
Yeah. That was a thing. I actually picked it up, but I haven't really played it.
I did. We have a try-play of it. You can probably just watch that and say your prayers and be good with it.
Oh.
Yeah. June, and last but not least, June 30th, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. So,
which is, for all intents and purposes, really good.
Pretty damn good. So, and really fantastic too. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna just push us along to the third quarter, good sir. Pick a really good one, because we are actually running out of time for some reason.
Oh snap!
Yeah,
putting a lot of pressure on me.
No pressure.
Okay. So I think a big one here would be that Bruce Straley, co-director of Last of Us and Uncharted 4, departs from Naughty Dog after 18 years. Holy crap. Imagine dedicating yourself to a company for nearly 2 decades and then going Splitsville. Like, wow.
Yeah. That was really sad for me because, even coming into this story after reading like Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, hearing Bruce Straley's side and Neil Druckmann's side on how they had to work on like Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, I think it just burnt out Bruce Straley at the end of that whole ordeal. It was really sad.
Yeah, I can definitely sympathize. I mean, just the way it sounded like, because they had wrapped up Last of Us, which sounded like that was a huge ordeal in and of itself. And then to like almost immediately jump into Uncharted 4, which was its own like behemoth. Like, holy crap. Like, yeah, I don't blame him for like just being like, I'm done. Like, I'm tapping out. Like,
yeah, totally. I'm gonna jump right in and say that the other big news that I want to kind of bring to people's attention is Casey Hudson replacing Aaron Flynn as the general manager of BioWare. So if you guys don't know, Casey Hudson was working on HoloLens at Microsoft for their games department. But, as with most Microsoft vaporware, Casey Hudson moved on and went back to BioWare because, guess what? HoloLens isn't going anywhere when it comes to games. So just like the Kinect before it. So there's that. Yeah, so this was interesting to me because like this is after like they said like that they were absorbing BioWare Montreal into Motive Studios. That was because BioWare Montreal were the developers of Mass Effect Andromeda, which we talked about earlier. So that was really interesting that they got absorbed into Motive, which, there's a bunch of like people that are in Motive that, it's almost like it's this weird kind of company that is making a game that we don't know about. Maybe we do, but it really at this point,
hard to say.
Yeah, hard to say. Yeah, so there's that. Also, I want to bring attention to the fact that Daniel Licht, who is the guy who composed the music for Dexter, the TV series, and as well as the Dishonored series and Silent Hill Downpour, passed away at the age of 60.
Aw, that's a shame.
Daniel Licht is pretty awesome.
I mean, I don't like Silent Hill Downpour, but the music was good.
Yes, the music was good. Dexter was great. It had iconic music for the title screen. Dishonored has some really good music as well. So he will forever be remembered. I think
Absolutely.
this is And I'm sorry if I'm like going so fast because I just realized like, oh my God, we have been lingering a lot in some of these conversations. Warner Brothers was criticized for making money out of Middle Earth: Shadow of War's executive producers passing.
Oh yeah, I heard about this. This was really fucked up.
Yeah.
So apparently, one of the producers had passed away, and he was a guy that like everyone really loved in the team. He was a genuine, like really great person, and the team wanted to honor him by putting him in the game to kind of immortalize him, which I think is a really nice gesture. And what seemed like something that was not the fault of the developers, but was actually something that was, the suits of the company trying to take advantage of it and made him DLC, which is scummy.
I mean, later on, what happened was they basically removed the cost, and Warner Brothers themselves were footing the bill themselves, and they've refunded everybody who had actually bought the DLC and just gave it to everybody for free. So this ended pretty damn well, I think.
Yeah, it ended up fine, but it was they were not putting themselves in a positive light for a while there.
But also, one thing of note as well is the Middle Earth: Shadow of War was the very first game, I think, of this year that went, that actually was put in the firing range for its microtransactions, because it had a loot box system that you could buy or earn in game, and apparently there's some really good gear hidden in those microtransactions, which is wow, it could shorten your game time pretty dramatically. So this is like a situation where they like they tried to apply the freemium model into a $60 game, and apparently it still sold really well. So I guess people don't care.
Well, one criticism I remember hearing was that there is, I think it's for the true ending, or at least for like some post game content or something to that in that vein, where you had to grind in order to access it, but you could also use the loot boxes, and that would expedite it much and make it so that you didn't have to grind as much.
Right.
And a lot of people were criticizing it for that, because without the loot boxes, the grind for it is like supposedly really bad.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it sucks, but like I said, it sold well for when it was released and stuff, which I'm pretty sure we'll get to later. Oh boy. And that's just the beginning of microtransactions. Warner Brothers actually had microtransactions in Injustice 2 as well, but it wasn't as egregious as this one. Like, you couldn't get gear that made you better in the game or something. I mean, it did, but for like non-ranked gameplay, if you will. So,
right.
Yeah. And it's got its own set of problems. Anyway, Warner Brothers is running it into its own problems as well. I'm going to run through these game releases. If you want to talk about any of them, just stop me, all right? Is that cool?
Sure.
Okay. June 11th, Final Fantasy 12, The Zodiac Age, which, by the way, sold like really well. Sold like 1
That's
million.
good.
I think it sold 1 million units or something.
Yeah, I never got into that game when it first came out, so I'm hoping that this re-release will endear me to it.
The fast forward button certainly made me endear towards it even more. Because that battle system is slow as molasses. Pretty damn slow. July 12th, The End is Nigh for Windows. So, mind you, this is the Windows version. So, it came out with not a bit of fanfare. I was really surprised about that. Which is really sad, because I like Edmund McMillan and Tyler Glael. July 21st, Splatoon 2. July 25th, Pyre. July 28th, Hey Pikmin! And then Metopia, but, August...
about that?
Yeah. August 2nd, Tacoma. August 8th, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice and Lawbreakers.
I picked up Hellblade. I haven't played it yet, but I'm interested to get through that game, because I heard a lot of interesting...
Yeah, it's really good. I actually was playing that game for a little bit, like about a few weeks ago, and I'm pretty far in it, I would say. And it's... Man, I can't believe that's like a $30 game, dude. Like, the quality of that game is really spectacular.
I got it on sale, too.
Wow, yeah, that's really good then. Lawbreakers, I wish they thought of that game better. But
it's the Cliffy B game that really was not great.
I mean, it's great if it was released like about 10 years ago. Or something like it's
in a world of Overwatch, it certainly feels its age.
Yeah. Speaking of Blizzard, August 14th, StarCraft Remastered, and then August 15th, Agents of Mayhem from the Saints Row guys, like Volition, yes. City Skylines for PS4 came out. Nidhogg 2, which is a fun game. Night Trap 25th Anniversary came out on August 15th.
Have you noticed a trend of re-releases this year as well? Like StarCraft Remastered, Patapon Remastered,
yep.
Final Fantasy 12, The Zodiac Age. There's a few others. Like, this year has had a lot of re-releases, which some people poo-poo that, but I never understood that. I think re-releases are a good thing.
It's the way that I see it, it's a way for people to get into game development and learn how to program games without actually making a game from scratch. So the porting process actually allows them to kind of take a look at games and inner workings and figure out like how to make things in a very specific way. So I'm totally okay with that.
Not only that, but I mean, a lot of these are games that people didn't get a chance to experience the first time around. So now these people have a chance to play them.
Absolutely. I'm totally in agreement with you here. Moving on. Sonic Mania for consoles. Mind you, consoles, right? And Undertale for PlayStation 4 and Vita.
Play it.
At some point.
It's short.
At some point.
It's short. Just play it.
At some point.
You could finish it in a weekend. Just fucking do it.
I will find the time to do it, maybe in the future.
God damn it! I'm not gonna stop, pestering you about this. You gotta fucking play it
at some point.
God damn it!
Okay, August 22nd, The Escapists 2, which is sad because Uncharted: The Lost Legacy came out the same day. So I'm mentioning
what got overshadowed.
Yeah. August 25th, Madden, because I find that we need to mention it for the people who do like Madden. August 29th, I'm going to skip some of these, but the more important ones are Everybody's Golf. People didn't think that was going to be good. That was actually really good. Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is another one of those games that people didn't think was good, and then they got launched, and it was like, oh my god, we got to get it. Abduction from the guys who made Myst. You remember those guys? Like, and Riven, and...
Yes.
Yeah. Crazy that they released a brand new game. This is for the PS4 version. Pillars of Eternity, Complete Edition for PS4 and Xbox One, so the PC game...
I'm not sure how that game would work on consoles, but okay.
Yeah, me too. I don't know. And I will not spend the money to figure that out, sadly, but hopefully it plays well. Sonic Mania got released for Windows, Windjammers, which is a cult hit, and of course Yakuza Kiwami, which was $30. Hopefully you guys got a really good deal on that over the Black Friday
fantastic weekend. Remake.
Yes, it was really good. Man, that's just like 2 months. We still have like 1 more month to go. Okay, I'm gonna ramp it up. August 31st, Life is Strange: Before the Storm finally begins. Life is Strange is pretty badass, dude. You should play it.
I got through episode 1. Hated it.
What?
Hated it.
You're a heartless bastard. You know that?
Dude, that dialogue was so fucking terrible.
Well, these kids are not adults, or like, I don't know. It's weird. I felt like
no, the dialogue sounded like a 40-year-old, pretending he thinks he knows what kids sound like.
That did not come across to me. But anyways, we can just, agree to disagree on this one for now.
Sure.
September 5th, Knack 2. Apparently, that's also a good game, but again, not going to be one of those people who buys it. I mean, apparently this went free in PlayStation Australia, and people were able to get it for free there.
Oh, shit.
It is weird, man. September 6th, Destiny 2. That's that. September 14th, Divinity Original Sin 2. September 12th, I skipped over this, my bad. Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana, which is, of course, going to be, fixed, localization-wise.
Yeah, it's going to get redubbed, and It's going to get the script fixed, so...
Yes. Yeah. September 15th, Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, and Metroid Samus Returns. You want to talk about remakes? Here's another one.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep. September 19th, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which, well, that's a fighting game.
It happened.
Yeah. September 22, man, this will make you really excited. Doki Doki Literature Club came out on September 22nd.
Yes. So... real quick to everyone listening, this game is free. It's free on Steam.
Okay,
it's free on Steam.
Okay,
it's free on the website as well for the game. So, I mean, you can't argue with free.
Okay, I'm gonna get that game. I'm seriously gonna get that game.
And I'll say it like this: it is kind of a subversion of sorts, in a way, of dating sims and visual novels. So I don't want to give anything away. The game makes it pretty clear right from the start that, like, there's something up.
Okay.
But it does start a bit slow because it doesn't show its hand until later on. So I'm going to say to stick with it.
Okay.
And it becomes pretty interesting.
So you don't need to explain. You had me at free, okay?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. You had me at free. I mean,
it's also short. You can probably finish it in like a sitting.
oh man, that means I have to schedule this for the future again, just like Undertale.
Yep. Except this is free.
Yeah, maybe there's an appeal to that will make me want to play it right away. Okay, moving along. Guild Wars 2 Path of Fire, which is the expansion to Guild Wars 2, came out the same day. Pokemon Tournament DX, which came out on the Switch. Project Cars 2, which came out. I mean, it's a racing game.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah. Steam September 26th, Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony.
Yeah, I never got into those games. I should. A lot of people like them.
So you want to talk about a subversion of the visual novel genre? I feel like Danganronpa and the Zero Escape series definitely kind of do that. And what I mean by subversion is that a lot of hardcore visual novel players actually consider them as not exactly visual novels, but hybrids. Because they're not, it's not a choose your own adventure purely. There's other like puzzly elements and stuff that you have to encounter, and some really interesting decisions that you have to make that are very much not choose your own adventure, if you will.
I would agree with that. Like, I've beaten 999 and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I wouldn't classify that as strictly a visual novel. It is kind of a hybrid visual novel / choose your own adventure / puzzle game. I mean, the puzzles in that game are really good.
Yeah, I mean, I would basically say it's like hybrid visual novel puzzle, because like really visual novels are inherently choose your own adventure games, so
sure. I was thinking more point and click adventure.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, we're on September 26th. Senran Kagura Peach Beach Splash came out. I know that we have fans who are listening to this who are huge fans.
Really?
Of Senran. Yes, Senran Kagura.
Okay. Hey man, you get no judgments from me. Enjoy your floppy anime titties.
Yes. Damn, it's too bad that we can't put that as a title, but oh well. Either way, I think iTunes is probably gonna like censor that anyway. September 28th. This one is actually a really good date for both PC and Switch gamers. Total War Warhammer 2, which is like a really, like a long-awaited sequel to like, the Total Warhammer series, came out for PC. And also Golf Story, which I thought that this was actually a pretty damn good RPG for what it is, Like, golf and RPG, you would think like, oh, there's no freaking way that that's going to work. But
wait, how is it that this year came out with like 2 great golf games?
I don't know. It's 2017, man. 2017, that's all I gotta say. Like, 2017 is freaking crazy, dude. And Golf Story was actually legit really good, too. Like, I don't have everybody's golf. I've seen people play it. It's really good. But Golf Story actually makes you want to play golf, which is really odd.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And lastly, for the third quarter, September 29th, Cuphead, Star Fox 2 via SNES Classic, and Yokai Watch 2 Psychic Spectres. So there you go for third quarter. So
yes.
What do you think of this quarter? Maybe even though we're going fast with these, I think we should at least think about like the third quarter as a whole.
Holy crap, like that's way more releases than I thought there were in the third quarter. I actually remember thinking during this quarter, like, oh, there aren't a whole lot of releases. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So many. I think I was just blinded by the fact that I was just like knee deep into Yakuza Kiwami. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
I just put my blinders on and I'm just like focused on that. And I didn't realize that like there's so much other stuff that came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of am with you on this because I think that happens to me too. When there are very specific games that I like, I don't really see like the forest for the trees, even, so to speak. But, to be quite honest, like, even, like looking back, like about 2 quarters before this, there is a crazy sustainable amount of like video games that have come out. And all of a sudden, when August hits, bam, all the releases are out all of a sudden. Like as if,
it's
like
nuts.
Like it's as if they were waiting for Yakuza Kiwami to come out, and then all of a sudden, Yakuza's coming out, right? Well, let's release a whole bunch of other games too. A funny thing to talk about too is in January when Yakuza 0 came out, it wasn't those 3 games. It wasn't just those 3 games that came out. There was also, like, I think I said earlier, 8 or 9 games. It seems to me that every time Yakuza wants to come out, everybody schedules it around Yakuza. I mean, I'm just saying, man, like,
I mean,
yeah.
Yakuza is worthy of respect.
Mm-hmm. But somehow people think, like, let's release it around Yakuza. That's fine, right? Like, I'm looking at this around Yakuza Kiwami, and there were, like, 10 games that came out alongside Yakuza Kiwami. And that's just the ones that I actually decided to put on this goddamn list. It's insane.
But another thing that, I mentioned it before with the remasters, but I think the third quarter actually came out with a lot of really great ports and remasters. Like, that port of East 7... for Windows is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I beat the original PSP version, and being able to play that game in high definition is something else. It's a trip.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. That was released on August 30th, which is a day after Yakuza Kiwami, which I guess that still counts for that time period.
Yeah,
yeah. Oh boy, yeah.
But yeah, third quarter is a sleeper. The sleeper quarter, man, came out with some amazing stuff. I didn't even really realize it.
Yeah, but fourth quarter is here. We are technically in fourth quarter, and this is kind of crazy because movers and shakers actually come out generally in the fourth quarter. So here we go. I'm just gonna go through like some of the news here, just because we're running out of time. Andrew House, president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, announced his departure from the company. So that was super surprising to me because I'm like, wow, Andy House, he is like pivotal to Sony on the PlayStation side, which is crazy. He's leaving. Mike Laidlaw, the creative director of the Dragon Age franchise, left BioWare, which Mike Laidlaw has been there since Dragon Age Origins. That's huge. IGN acquires Humble Bundle.
No.
Yeah, this made a lot of people groan and grunt as well. Visceral Games, the developer of the Dead Space series, was shut down by Electronic Arts, and they were working on that Uncharted game that, this is what prompted EA to say, single-player games, nobody plays them anymore.
Yeah, that's that Star Wars game that was going to play like Uncharted.
Yeah. I think this is the second single-player Uncharted game that was canceled over the past 4 or 5 years or something.
Yeah, the other one also was apparently like an Uncharted type of.
Yeah, like 1313, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Along the same lines, even though Visceral got shut down, EA decided to buy Respawn Entertainment, the guys who made Titanfall. Yay! I guess that's a thing to be about. And finally, for news, EA comes under fire due to Star Wars Battlefront 2 and, this is something that's lesser known, Need for Speed Payback's microtransactions. So
I didn't know that, because the Star Wars one has just been on the forefront.
Because it's Star Wars, people knew about it a lot more. But
right.
But in the back end and stuff, Need for Speed Payback had its own microtransaction problem. And in a recent patch, they actually made it so that you don't have to rely on microtransactions too much anymore. But needless to say, I think that was that team being more proactive about that. But I think that was this whole conversation around EA is just a kiss of death for anything that company releases, moving forward and stuff. So it's really sad. Okay. Yeah.
No, oh man, we've got a lot of games.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Did I cut you off, talking about EA?
No, don't even worry about it. I'm just going to say we're running out of time, so I'd say to cut the fat and let's just focus on the important stuff.
Yeah, of course. So again, I'm just going to list down the games, and I'll randomly skip through a bunch of them. Here we go. October 2nd, Battle Chasers Night War for Windows, PS4, and Xbox One. This was a Kickstarter, and this was actually from a company by Joe Madureira, who was the character designer and the designer of the Darksider series. So this was his kind of own project. I think it's like an RPG of some sort.
That's neat.
Yeah, there's a Switch version coming out, but I don't know when that's coming out. Called Sep Revolt. I know some of our listeners are fans of that series. Forza Motorsport 7 also came out, which has its own I think, loot box problem, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, loot boxes. Jesus.
Yeah. That's right. No, there is a loot box problem in Forza Motorsport 7. That's right. I forgot about that. Okay.
This has become such a consistent problem.
Yeah. And towards the end of the year, right? Like, it became more prevalent towards the end of the year. October 5th, A Hat in Time for Windows and Mac comes out.
Yay!
Great game. I wish I played more of it. Again, it's just...
I mean, you could get the PS4 version.
Yeah, I don't want to buy the game twice. I freaking funded the game like years ago. Although, funny thing, I actually bought Axiom Verge for Nintendo Switch, so there's that. Eat that.
That's that Metroid game. Or the Metroid style game.
Yeah, it's really good. It's sometimes better at Metroid than Metroid itself sometimes, but I love Axiom Verge. You can't it's tough for me to say anything bad about Axiom Verge. I love that game. Cool. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen was re-released for PS4 and Xbox One. This isn't like a remake or remaster or anything. It really just is a straight port, PS4, Xbox One. The PS3, 360 versions were like not that well optimized, or at least like the game was like more could handle. So these ports make sense. Okay, that's good. Raiden 5 Director's Cut for PS4, Xbox One, and of course Stardew Valley for Nintendo Switch. That is actually my primary platform for Stardew Valley now, is the Nintendo Switch. So this was cool. A really cool release for me. October 6th, Layton's Mystery Journey. No idea what that is. It's a Professor Layton game. I love Professor Layton games. It's great. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions. I'm guessing that's a pack-in, like both games together. Oxenfree. It's a game that people care about for Nintendo Switch. Came out. October 10th, Tiny Barbarian DX for Nintendo Switch came out. I have a try-play of that on the website. Middle-earth Shadow of War. This is that game. It came out on October. That happened. October 13th, The Evil Within 2, which I heard was way better than the first game, came out.
Yeah, I was kind of interested in playing the first game a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing though, like a lot of people don't like it, but every time I see footage of it, I'm like, this doesn't look that bad.
It's not that it looks bad, it's just the checkpointing is super brutal. Like, we're talking like it's like old school checkpointing we're talking about here. It's not like, like where most games are forgiving with checkpointing. Like, you get past a certain point and it automatically checkpoints you. Like, the checkpointing in The Evil Within is like 30 minutes worth of content and then you get to a checkpoint. That sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And nothing, again, I don't think it's necessarily that the game is bad. It's just that design decision is kind of like what prevents people. It
kills it.
Yeah, that's what prevents people from getting into it and hearing about that. And I don't think there was any sort of, I don't think the reviews at the time articulated it that well, But Evil Within 2, I heard, improves on it really, really well, which is a really good thing for that franchise. Hopefully you guys got that on a sale as well, because, I think it's a worthwhile purchase. I'm waiting to beat the first game before I move on. I'm actually being a responsible human being and not buying everything. Thank you. October 17th, your favorite game of the year, Etrian Odyssey 5 Beyond the Myth, came out.
Yeah, that. Let's just move on.
Okay. Gran Turismo Sport came out. South Park, The Fractured But Whole, which I'm still working on. And WWE 2K18, because why not? We mention wrestling from time to time here. Might as well freaking mention wrestling. October 20th, Fire Emblem Warriors. Too many Masao games. We've gone through that. Way too many. October 24th, Destiny 2 for PC came out. Just Dance 2018.
Oh, the real game of the year.
Right? Yeah, it's got the 2018 all right. It's ready for next year. The Mummy Demastered, which I heard was kind of similar to that Alien game from on the 3DS from like a few months ago or maybe a year ago or something. By Way Forward?
Yeah, I was going to say Way Forward. That was like a few years ago, wasn't it?
I think so. I don't remember. I don't quite remember when it came out. Yomawari, Yomawari Midnight Shadows, which I have a try-play for. That's really creepy. That actually,
October 27th kicked ass. Look at this.
Yeah, you want to read it?
Assassin's Creed Origins, Super Mario Odyssey, and Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus.
Yeah,
I mean, regardless of how you may feel about those games, like, those are 3 really big games that came out in the same day.
But Daniel, that doesn't compare to October 31st when Bubsy the Woolies Strike Back come out.
Oh, Bubsy.
Yeah.
Could possibly go wrong.
I know, right? And November 3rd, Call of Duty World War II came out, which
I suppose.
And there's not much I can say about that. I feel more Call of Duty. I mean, the gameplay is good, but I mean, Call of Duty, okay, cool. Yeah.
More importantly, Neo got ported.
Yeah, Neo got ported onto Windows on November 7th, and of course, because Sonic has had so much good luck this year, why not end the year with a whimper and release Sonic Forces?
Yikes.
On the same day, yeah. So, and Super Lucky's Tale, which is basically like Crash Bandicoot, but with VR, except this is for the non-VR version that's coming out on Windows and Xbox One, proving once and again that certain games don't need to be in virtual reality. Thank you very much. This is one of those games. November 10th, Doom for Nintendo Switch. Really big deal. It's a really big deal.
That's nuts. That's just crazy.
Yeah. Crazy talk. Need for Speed Payback came out that day. You want to take the next few dates and stuff?
Yeah, sure. So on November 14th, we had LA Noire for PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch.
Woohoo.
Which, I mean, I just need to ask, like, were people really begging for this game to come back?
I don't think so. The original developer doesn't even exist anymore, so I don't even know who the hell ported this damn game.
Yeah, Team Bondi's gone.
Yeah.
November 17th, jam-packed with games. We got Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, Star Wars Battlefront 2, bleh. The Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim for Nintendo Switch and PSVR. Jesus Christ, is there anything Skyrim isn't on at this point?
Mobile phones?
There's got to be some phones that have Skyrim on it.
I don't think so. But I bet you, within the next 2 years, somebody is going to be like, well, we managed to shrink Skyrim into 4 gigabytes of downloads, and here you are. And that's going to be like a shocker. But I heard that the PSVR version is being received extremely well by a lot of people, including, by the way, people who weren't fans of the original Skyrim. So this is a very surprising kind of reaction to it being in VR. And I've heard some really positive stuff about it. But it's $60 if you want to actually try that out, which I already have Skyrim, thank you. So
yeah, it's I think I'm good.
Yeah.
November 21st, we have Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, which I think that's a mobile game.
That's the mobile game that is still, the servers are still crashing, so there's that. Yeah.
Oh, well. So on November 28th, we have Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 for the Nintendo Switch. I never played these games, so...
They were all right. It was...
Okay.
It's becoming, the Skyrim for Capcom. It's hey, let's port this on every platform known to man, right? It seems to be if you look at this year for Capcom, they loved porting a shit ton of games on different platforms, right? Like Dark Arisen, just a few months ago, right? It's what? Really?
Yeah. I mean, hey, Capcom's gotta make that money, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, that money better be going to
Mega Man 11, hopefully.
Yes. December 1st, we have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which, I mean, everyone has been loving.
Really? I thought there was some hate for this game.
I've seen, to be fair, I've seen some hate for it, but I've also seen a lot of love for it. I'd say, I've seen more love than hate.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's so difficult to quantify that sort of feeling, but overall,
sure.
I feel there are, right now. Okay, honestly, right now for me, and you're hearing this for the first time. that it's kind of like a 4 out of 5 for me.
Ooh, that's strong.
I know, that's kind of like a random like mid review, like like the recap episode of the whole year, right? But yeah, that's kind of like where it's at for me. I mean, I keep playing it obviously, so there's value for it, right? So, you know,
I have one friend though that's really obsessed with it, and he's even saying things like Persona Who, and I'm like,
no, I wouldn't go that far. Come on, come on.
Yeah. No, yeah, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I almost want not wanting to like it because of this shit. Like,
no, that there's definitely not like, no, the battle system is like that. The reason why like it's a 4 for me is because the game is very chatty, you know, with the battle sequences. There's
don't forget me.
Oh my god, you know that part. You know what? Yeah, oh my, that was ridiculous. My girlfriend and I, you know, were playing that part, and she was like, "That is kind of a silly thing to say. Like, why are the soldiers not wanting you to forget them?" I'm like, who thought that was actually something that made sense? Or is
think you can take me?
Yeah. Oh my god, I can't believe you actually know that. So that's one, right? Number 2 is that the battle system is actually like pretty slow. It's really slow. Like, we're talking, man, just an encounter is, it takes quite a while, especially for like enemies that are like the same level as you. It takes a goddamn while. It's
Persona
nuts.
4, I mean, Persona 5's combat is lightning quick.
Yeah, very snappy. I like that. And remember, like when we were talking about like JRPGs a few weeks ago, I said that the mark of a modern JRPG has to be that the battle system has to be snappy. Xenoblade Chronicles definitely is not that. Yeah.
No, fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I have a try-play of that if you want to see how slow that battle system is. I think I fought like a crab there, and it took like a minute or two, or something like that. It's weird. Yeah. That happened.
Well, moving on.
Yeah.
On December 5th, we had Dead Rising 4, Frank's big package for PS4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah.
I'm not a fan of Dead Rising, so this has got nothing on me. Yeah.
Me either. December 6th, A Hat in Time for PS4 and Xbox One. Yeah!
Yay!
Get it. It's good. I promise.
Mm-hmm.
And WWE 2K18 for Nintendo. So,
yeah.
You know, a few wrestling fans in our audience, I'm sure, were excited for that.
Pretty sure, you know.
December 8th, we had Hello Neighbor. I have no idea.
It's kind of like it's weird because it's almost like Home Invasion, but except like that your neighbor is actually this really clever AI that can try to figure out like how to get to you and stuff. And it's almost like a weird survival game, but you're invading their property, which sounds really bad, but it's actually, the concept is a lot more fleshed out than what I'm saying. So, yeah.
Okay. On December 9th, we had Logorogo 2 Mastered.
Another remaster.
On December 12th, we had Okami HD for PS4, Xbox One, and Windows. I'm excited for this.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
rather, like, because with Okami, I friggin' love this game on the PS2. This is a great game. It is a better Zelda than Zelda, in my opinion.
If I can trade in my PS2 version for the HD version, I would totally do it because I still have it. So
it's great. It's a great game.
Yeah.
Technically, the PS3 version is an HD version as well, but I mean, you know, what? It doesn't hurt to put it on more platforms. Come on, it's a great game.
Sure. Yeah.
And The End Is Nigh for Nintendo Switch came out for December 12th.
Mm-hmm. Great game.
And December 14th, the mediocre Yooka-Laylee for Nintendo Switch.
I can't believe we are ending 2017 with Yooka-Laylee. How the hell did that happen?
I mean,
Man, we start the year with Yooka-Laylee. Technically we did. And then we end it with Yooka-Laylee. What the hell, man? What the hell? Like, I want Hat in Time to actually release on Nintendo Switch because of this.
Yeah, I mean,
what a bummer.
like, I was gonna say fuck ukulele, but at the same time, it's like it's not that bad. But
Yeah.
you know that clip of from Curb Your Enthusiasm where the main character is just like looking at he's just got this look on his face where he's kind of like that's kind of how I feel towards ukulele.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, I'm looking at the fourth quarter right now, and there's definitely a lot of like really bummy stuff, towards the end of the year that happened. But, the amount of games, the amount of good games that came out never stopped. Even towards the end of, the year, we still were getting like some really fantastic titles. And I think that, I hope that this pace carries over to 2018, what with the release of like Yakuza 6, Far Cry 5 around the corner, the new God of War, the new Metroid Prime, and so on and so forth. Like, I'm hoping that, the reason why we don't know of anything coming out in 2018 is because people are actually holding onto their announcements until they're actually ready to release the game. Not announcing a game like, that's not coming out for like about another year or two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing looking back on 2017, is it feels like this year was almost like a celebration of not only like new great ideas in games like Nier Automata, but also looking back and appreciating older games like Okami and Final Fantasy 12 and Super Mario Super Saga with plus Bowser's and Minions. Like that was a great GBA title, and to see it come back on the 3DS was awesome. So, like what a great year for both new games and appreciating old games.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting too, because if you look at every single generation of games, right, there's always that one defining year that defined that generation. In the previous gen, I believe it was 2010, but this generation, it seems that 2017 is defining what video games in this generation is all about. And not only that, we've all the right games that would represent the generation came out, right? Like, for better or for worse, right? Like Horizon for Sony, Nier Automata, Nioh, Zelda, and a Mario game, Andromeda for that, and so many other games that are too numerous to even list right now. I mean, we just did it, right? And it's really crazy, and I really think that 2017 will be that marquee year where people will look fondly and say, that was a pretty damn kick-ass year. In fact, if I only promised myself for the next 5 years to buy any game, in 2017, I would be a happy camper and just buy, like over the years, just buy games from 2017. I would be a damn happy camper because all these games really kick ass.
Absolutely. This is a year to remember. And I'm telling you, 2018, I mean, you've got some stiff competition.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You really need to step up your game, and hopefully we'll have a lot less of these microtransaction bullshits, but I think that that's going to carry in to the first quarter, sadly. So, but despite what EA says and their condemnation of the single player campaign, I'm pretty damn sure we're going to see like a lot more awesome single player campaigns and even co-op campaigns too. Personally, I'm looking forward to the co-op campaign in Far Cry 5. I don't know why. I have a really good feeling about that game. I'm going to tell you straight up now. Like, that game is going to be pretty damn cool. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed our lengthy, laborious recap of 2017. There really is a lot of shit that happened in 2017. And if we missed anything, please don't hesitate to email us at podcast@mybacklogbattle.tv, or even, message us on Twitter at mybacklogbattle and on Facebook at mybacklogbattle, because, man, we... Like, this is the first time we actually did this together, and I think I think towards the end we figured out a way to absorb all this information and talk about it, but it's kind of sad that we only realized it towards the end.
And it's fucking 2017, man. It's just an insane year. Like,
yeah,
you know, and looking back on it, I don't think it's rose tinted glasses. 2017 is a pretty awesome year. And I don't know. I mean, some people are saying it's the best year in gaming. I don't know if I'd go quite that far, but it's a damn notable year.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's totally up there. So, anyways, guys, thank you very much for joining us for this episode of the podcast. And remember, be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you are watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening to this, please consider subscribing if you're not yet. Or, if anything, leave a review on our iTunes so that a lot more people can find us, because that's how, iTunes knows that you like the episodes of the show. So until next time, guys, we'll see you guys next week for the end of the year Game of the Year 2017. It's going to be really friggin' awesome. So until then, we'll see you guys later. Happy gaming.